Yo, Mr. White, look, a full moon.
Jesse, don't look at that.
Yo, Mr. White, what's happening to us?
Jesse.
What the fuck? Well, y'all been wanting the Furious Furries deck profile, and here it is. We got Jesse and Walter here, good old new Shroom and Salsa leader. When I say new, I mean just, you know, not the set 12 one. It's already starting to get pretty old, you know. Everyone's been asking for a black leader, and everyone was really disappointed by this one, but I thought it was pretty fun. Basically, on the front side, you send the top 2 cards of your deck to the warp, and when this card attacks, you look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, add a demon realm or a black demon god to your hand, shuffle your deck. If your life's at 4 or less, or you have 6 or more black cards in your warp, which it's really easy to get, especially like turn 2 is usually the normal time you're going to awaken. You could force it turn 1 if you're in a really weird circumstance, but you can do it. But you can send 1 card from your hand to the warp, draw 2 cards, switch one of your energy to active mode, and then you have to cut down until you have 6 life left. And you can flip it over, which it is great because that awakening allows you to
Focus. Come on. Come on.
Come on, look at my finger. God damn, this thing was so shiny, I had to put a condom over, and it's already starting to, see, okay. You can't tame them, they're deadly. But you have a permanent that if you place a card in your combo area to the drop area, and it's removed from the game instead. This is killing me. I'm going to put it down here, and then I'm just going to read it off the thing, because when you send one of your Demon Realm race or Demon Gods from your hand to the warp, when you're attacking, you draw 2 cards, so basically you warp one of these fellas to the drop, you draw 2, and then activate battle. If this card's in battle, you can choose 1 Demon Realm or Demon God in your warp. That is both mono black and does not have super combo, and combo it from your warp. So it is pretty good because it doesn't specify being a 5k combo. You can combo the 1ks, which we do have in this deck, and I will show you that right now. First off, we're going to go with the 1-drops here. We're going to start with Dark King Megabora, final battle at hand. He's Overlord once per turn. When this card is played, draw 1 card. Additionally, if your leader is a Black Demon Realm race, you can send the top 2 cards of your deck to your warp. So this is 9 times out of 10, this is going to be your turn 1 play. It also has an activate main for 1 black energy and 2 any color energy. If your leader is a black demon realm race, you may look at the bottom card of your deck and you may play it if it's demon god with servant, and if it's not, you place it back at the bottom of your deck. I've never used that effect. That is too much for what you're grabbing, which is possibly the SR, which you play from your warp anyway, and it can go to your bottom of the deck. It's a backup is what it is, and I've never used it. It's there, which is nice, but it's not its primary function. You're going to use it as your draw and your self-awakener, as well as being your overlord. That is 1 cost, which you have another one later on. But the next 1-drop we are going with is the Demon God Salsa Dark King's Vanguard. So I don't know anything about Dragon Ball Heroes. I just know Shroom and Salsa are just some goofy motherfuckers. That's why we got him here. Same thing, you can play the Salsa turn 1 as well, because when this card's played, you look at the top 5, add 1 Demon Realm race or Demon God card among them to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Additionally, if your leader is a Black Demon Realm race, send the top 2 cards to your warp. Nice thing about him is he has an auto limit 1. When this card is using a combo from your warp, it gets plus 1k combo power for the battle. So you do want to get as many of these to your warp as possible for your leader ability for his activate battle if you don't have your 1ks in the drop, which I think there is only 1 card with 4 copies that is a 1k that we can combo for free from the warp, so he is a good backup to have. Next one is technically a 2-drop, but it really is a 1-drop in this deck. So if your leader's Black Demon Realm race and you have 2 or more cards in your warp, reduce the energy cost of this card in your hand by 1. It's Demon God Shroom Dark King's Vanguard as well, so just the opposite of that card. He has an auto limit 1. When this card attacks, draw 1 card, then set up the 2 cards from the top of your deck to their warp. That's more of turn 2, maybe even going second, you go turn 1, but he is pretty good early on, 10k, and he draws on the swing, and he warps the top 2 cards, so you're building your resources. I think he's super good. This deck, I would say, as we're going along, isn't crazy by any means. I'm not putting crazy tech in here. It is mostly just trying to get as many cards from the set that work together and work with having to warp a Demon Realm or Demon God, because I need to have these cards in my hand, especially after Awakening, to even draw cards. So I can't stray too far from the path, or I'm literally going to whiff on drawing 2 cards. The next card, we have another 4 of. This one could be cut down to 3 of, but it's such a good card, even later on in the game, is Dark King Mekibora, Imminent Annihilation. He's another Overlord card once per turn. We're getting into the 3 drops now, so when this card attacks, you use up to 1 Demon Realm Race or Demon God, both mono black without super combo from your warp in the combo. So you can have multiple of these out, but you're only getting that auto once, which does suck, but it still is another kind of leader ability that he gets. It's almost identical what the activate main is as his auto. It only works when he's attacking, opposed to this one is he can also do the activate battle when he's being attacked. It is limit 1. The Overlord is once per turn, so that would be the benefit of having multiple. You can use the Overlord more than once between multiple copies. His activate main is 1 black energy if my leader's black, and I have 6 or more cards in my warp. Play this card from hand. So this is typically, you're either going to play this on your awakening turn or after awakening, because you need at least 6 cards in the warp. The next 3 drop, we're going to go in the same order as well. So we're going Salsa next. So Demon God Salsa, Stormclad. He's Servant, auto limit 1. A lot of the stuff in this deck is limit 1. But when this card is played, you may send the top card of your deck to the warp, and your opponent sends 1 card from their hand to the warp. So it's a nice way to fill your resource, as well as taking some resources out of your opponent's hand. Activate Battle for 1 black. If there are 1 or more Shroom cards in your combo area, and you send 1 card other than this card from your hand to the warp, play this card from your hand or warp. So very confusing on how that's worded. Basically, what you need to do is, the best way to play this card is to have this card already in your warp. You tap 1 energy when you have a Shroom of any kind out in your combo area. You're going to combo a Shroom, pay 1 energy, activate its activate battle by discarding a card from your hand, and then you get to play this from your warp or hand. Most of the time you want to play it from your warp, just so you're not wasting an extra card from hand. But he's super good. He's 10k in Servant, which Servant will trigger the Overlord. Obviously, you're not sure what Servant is. Basically, all it means is the battle card gets an extra 10k, but it does not restand during your charge phase. And Overlord checks for Servant cards. So Overlord will say, I choose a Servant card in my battle area, I bottom deck and draw 1 card, which will be really apparent when this new Cumber deck comes out, because there's going to be a lot of Servant stuff. I wonder how much this will fit in with it. I think this might be the light version of the Cumber stuff, which I wonder how much we'll be able to cross-pollinate, because it's a complete different thing. But that's for another day. Maybe we'll have that deck made and do a deck profile for that too. But the next one, Demon God Shroom, Demonic Invitation. I'm surprised it's just not just Stormclad. They just didn't go lazy. They gave us something a little different, which he's also Servant. He has an auto limit 1 as well. His is when this card attacks, you may send the top card of your deck to the warp, then choose one of your opponent's cards that energy costs 4 or less and set it to the owner's warp. So he's the board removal version, he's the hand control version. Same way to play him, just flipping the character you need in the combo area. So for him, you need a Salsa in your combo area, you tap 1 energy, you warp a card from your hand, and you can play him from your warp or hand. Same thing, 10k Servant also could be used to Overlord after. So you're losing the card to the warp, but you're still able to draw a card if you have your Overlord pieces out on the field. So now that we got through the 3 drops, we're going to go to kind of a special combo card here. I probably would run more if I had them. These are just the ones I've pulled from champion packs. Like I said, this isn't the be-all, end-all of the deck. I definitely probably would run at least 3. These are super good. They were more so geared towards the older Shroom and Salsa deck because of the way they're permanent and the way their played works. Basically, this card, you tap 1. If your opponent has no battle cards in their drop area, you can play this card from your hand. So early on, if you really want to, you can have this. It's a 20k body. It has a permanent. If your opponent has 4 more cards in their warp, this card gains double strike. In black matchups, of course, they're going to have that. This is kind of the part where I'm saying it's more for the older leader, because that whole older leader, you're just warping all your opponent's cards from their drop area. He does have an auto limit 1 where you can tap 1 energy. If your leader is Shroom Salsa, when this card attacks or is used in a combo, you send up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards from the drop area to the warp, and if your opponent has no battle cards in their drop, draw 1 card. Really good. Does come in sometimes. The main reason we're running this in this deck is possibly getting a 20k turn 1 if you really want to get aggressive with them. But it is a Shroom and a Salsa card, so target for either of these. Technically, I can have that out there and have a target for either the Shroom or the Salsa, because this one counts as either or. The next one up there is another card that needs to be played from the warp to be at its full efficiency, is the SR of the deck. So the kind of boss monster. It's Demon God Shroom and Demon God Salsa. What is it? Unending Nightmare. Crazy scary name for how goofy these guys are. Double Strike, another servant card. This one's 25k, so in actuality it's a 35k double strike swing. Permanent. When this card is placed in the drop area from your battle area or combo area, place at the bottom of the owner's deck instead. So this one can recycle itself, which is nice. This is a one cost 10k to combo, which is nice because that's an extra 10k that you put on your leader with the activate battle, and with the Z leader we'll be showing later on. So auto, when this card is played, your opponent chooses one card from their hand and one of their battle cards, ignoring barrier, sends with the owner's warp. It is ignoring barrier removal, and it removes a card from their hand, which is really nice, but the only problem is your opponent gets to choose. If they have one card on the field, they're forced to choose that card, but if they have a little piss baby on the field and they have their boss monster, they're just going to choose the piss baby, which is something that makes this card a lot weaker than what it could be. But I understand for 2 energy, ignoring barrier removal and getting a card in the hand and having a 35 double strike, especially now that God Sealing's gone, is definitely pretty strong. Obviously this was made with God Sealing still in mind, so I don't know. This deck definitely got a boost now that we don't have to worry about that anymore. But it's activate main limit 1. You pay 2 black energy. If you have 3 or more energy and you have 2 or more black battle cards in your combo area, play this card from your warp. So it doesn't matter what cards you have in the combo area, you just play it off of any of your 2 black battle cards. Next up, we are going to Warp City, and we're going to do our Overwhelm cards. So this deck, it's a little weird for Overwhelm. So traditional black Overwhelm decks will burst cards to the drop area with the leader effect. This leader effect is sending them straight to the warp. So it's really weird to build a drop area in this deck if you're not doing it early on. Because if you're doing it early on, it's fine because you can just combo cards off, right? Or if you're playing Z battle cards, would be the only way to kind of force some stuff in your drop area afterwards. There are some ways that we're going to get cards in there besides the fact. But what you do need to remember is the permanent of the leader is when you place a card from your combo area to the drop, you remove it from the game instead. So you have to Z-charge as much as you can because you're just going to lose those cards anyway. Early on, the leader doesn't have that permanent, so you can get one of these guys. Demon God Demigra, the Power Unleashed, is another Demon God as well. So it is searchable with some of the stuff in the deck. You're just going to play it for the Dark Overlord, Dark Overwhelm. Like, why not? All the cards are black anyway in the deck, so at least he gets to stay on the board. 30k when he's played, you get to pop something and draw a card, and then every time he attacks, your opponent has to warp a card from hand. Super good. He's a 0-5 combo as well, too, so he's never really dead in hand. Next card up, we have one of Mirror Assault from the Skies. I was debating on putting 2, but like I said, Overwhelm is a little tricky in this deck that you're not always going to see it every game, depending on what matchup you're facing and depending on how quickly you awaken. He's double strike, Overwhelm 7 for 1 energy. When you play this card, draw 1 card at the start of your opponent's next turn, choose one of your energy, switch it to active mode. So it's kind of 30k double strike for free. You're paying that energy during your turn, but you're still getting back on your opponent's turn for a defensive negate or anything like that, or a counterplay. Super good. I think I may have used him once. He's obviously, that's why I only have 1 in the deck. I've had more in the past, but he's okay. If I'm going to play anything Overwhelm, this one I find a lot better because Dark Overwhelm at least gets to stay on the board and doesn't leave at the end of the turn. The next one, we are using SSG Trunks Power Awaken. So, when I said stuff with Overwhelm, this is a way that you can have Overwhelm more effectively in the deck, is having one of these get placed in your warp by either your leader's Awaken, because it doesn't ask what card you need to put in the warp, or the Salsa Stormclad and the Shroom Demonic Invitation, because they just say place a card from your hand to warp. They don't specify Demon Realm Race or Demon God like the leader's auto. They are just any generic card, send it to your warp. So you want to send this card to your warp because that's the only way it's played with less than 5 energy. You tap 2 black energy. If your leader is black and you have 8 or more cards in your warp, which very easy in this deck, you play this card. It's got Deflect, Dual Attack, And then when this card attacks, place the three battle cards from your warp in the owner's drop area. And so that means you can get 6 cards, because obviously dual attack, and its auto is not once per turn. His permanent is this card was removed from the battle area, removed from the game instead. So you can't recycle them. I'm only running 2. You do see most of the cards in your deck, and if you don't get them to your hand, you're still bursting them off the front side of your leader, or bursting them with all these other cards. So it is really easy to see a lot of cards, because we're only running a 52 card deck here, I believe. Could be 53, I don't know. I'm making a deck profile, I have no clue of anything with my deck. But next up, super combos, just plain and simple. SS Vegeta, Prince Strikes Back, bottom deck 1, draw 2. He's your bread and butter. If you want to go into the whole Gogeta chain, you can. I don't see a big point in it. Obviously now, with thwarting only being at 1 for a long time now, it's I just like the combo. You're gonna be at 4 or less pretty quick in this deck, so I can't see another reason to run a different combo. Next up, we got the Unisons. I go with 3 Deborah Dimensional Meddler. Unisons are not really required for this deck. That's why I have them so low here. But if you are going to run a Unison, you kind of want it to be a quick Unison. Like I said, all these things are coming out for 1/1. Your boss monster is coming out for 2. You aren't paying a lot of energy in this deck, so you want to kind of storm as much as you can. This, I picked this, obviously, because I'm biased towards the old Shroom and Salsa leader. But this does have a nice little auto. When you use a black card in a combo, add a marker to this card and it gets plus 5k for the turn. So it's a no specified cost black Unison that's 10k. With that auto, would push it up to 15k. And it has a chance to warp stuff out of your opponent's drop area. Say they got Rib Brands or stuff, or Drives, which aren't as prevalent anymore. You can do that, and you have the opportunity to do his -4 and play 2 black Demon Realm or Evil Wizards, blah blah, from your deck. Energy cost 2. I don't care about that. I want to just swing 15k with him, because his auto will give him the extra 5k on both turns. That's basically what he's in the deck for. Just another kind of beat stick that is able to gain a couple of markers, so I can empower into these 2. The Demon God Poutine and Demon God Gravy, was it Treacherous Intel? I don't know. I've played them once. They are okay. They definitely, you can run the deck without them. They're Empower Black 2, so you can grab 2 markers from a Unison underneath, mainly going to be the Deborah. Obviously it could be itself, but it's a 3 specified cost Unison, so it is it's a pretty heavy Unison. It has auto, so if there are 4 more markers on this card, when this card is played, your opponent sends 1 card from their hand to the warp, which is nice. If you're already beating on them with all these other cards here, they're usually going to have to start emptying out their hand just to try to combo out and protect themselves, or you're going to make them warp with the Salsa here. So that's nice to get another warp out of them. It does have a nice +1. It has an activate battle. Up to one of your battle cards in your combo area gets +5 combo power for the battle. So you can do that on both turns, which is really nice to be able to plus on your opponent's turn as well, being an activate battle. And it has a -3 activate main, where you can choose all your opponent's battle cards and send them to the owner's warps. So I think it's a nice option if you want a board wipe, but very situational. Very situational. You mostly would stay with the Deborah and then just try to beat them down to death. Obviously, if they're using Dormant or something that's stopping your turn and they're wasting cards in hand for that, yes, might as well set up one of those. Just that also protects you on the defense. When they're swinging at your leader, you combo with a card from the warp. Say it's even a 5k combo that you're comboing from the warp. Oh, I'm only at 20k. Activate battle. That combo just became a 0-10k. And now I just stopped an attack. So I think it's decent. That's why we put it in the deck. It's just not super necessary. That's the best way to put it. Next, we're going to go with the only counterplay we have in the deck. Black really doesn't have too many counterplays. We're just going with Super Kamehameha. Get some floodgates out of there. It's just... rarely use it. Mostly, anytime using it is just to stop a floodgate from coming down, because we are kind of trying to swarm them and push them into a corner. Next, we got our first counterattack, Power Burst, only running 2 of. Like I said, this is kind of a very gas deck. You can do some setup, but you don't want to hit the brakes too much. I went Power Burst instead of the blocker negate, just because that was the first ones in my vicinity, and I'm just like, I'm not looking for these Demon. This deck is, come on. So we can't always put in every deck. We got to hit it old school, and I want to see Roshi being buff as shit. That's the real reason. Next one is our last negates here, is the Supreme Time, Time's Labyrinth Unleashed. I remember when this card was revealed and everyone was talking about how snapped it was, and then I barely see it now. It is nice because I can negate an attack and play this card. The permanent is if your opponent has 3 or more cards in their warp, you or your opponent. I should rephrase that, because you're going to have this turn 1, basically. You're going to have a bunch of cards in your warp, and then when I'm playing this using its counter skill, I can choose one of my opponent's battle cards, send it to the warp, and basically erase it for the turn. It'll come back at the end of the turn. So the best way to set up this card is I'm negating an attack and warping another card. Obviously, it doesn't go through barrier, which would make it insanely strong. I still think it's super good that I get a negate attack, and they're forced to counterplay this card if they don't want to lose another card for the turn. So that's, I think, is the strongest thing about it, is that I can burn a counterplay from their hand, which is mostly what's going to happen because she's only going to come down for 1. So basically every counterplay is going to hit her since she is only a 5k card as well. Next, we're going to go with the secret rare. Keeping on theme, Supreme Kai. This is I think the first servant and only servant SCR. She's double strike servant at 40k, which means she's really 50k double strike, which is stupid strong. The strongest card in the game, I believe. I think even like both the victory strikes are only 45 in total. Obviously, if they do damage, they win the game. So I don't know. She's super strong. She's only 1 energy, so if you have 3 or more energy, play this card from your hand for 1 black energy. And then if your leader's black, she has an activate main / battle, where you can tap 1 any color energy, remove this card from the game. Until the start of your next turn, your opponent can't attack with battle cards or unisons unless they choose 1 card in their life and place in the drop area each time. I pulled this SCR, and any black deck, I throw her in. I throw her in because it's just a nice floodgate and a double strike when you need it. Like, it is super good. Obviously, you have other stuff like Cumber now, which I think is a super good SCR too. But this is the one that I have available to me, and honestly, she hasn't done me wrong yet. And now that God Sealing's not a thing as well, like, why not? Why not play her? I know it sucks with the whole ruling on SCRs with the ultimate text that once they leave the field, they're removed from the game, so you couldn't really abuse the servant factor to her, like maybe she was meant to be with this deck. I don't know, because I'd be able to swing 50k, Overlord, put her to the bottom deck, draw a card, right? Because she didn't have the permanent originally that made her be removed from the game, and she had servant, so it was kind of like a weird thing, right? So, I'm still not a huge fan of that whole situation there, but what can you do, eh? So that is the main deck. Next, we are going to go into the side deck. I will put it on the side here. One of the Z Leader. Plain and simple. Z Leader only comes out when you have 2 or less life. It is double strike, 20k, which is nice. It costs 3 Z energy, which is a lot for most Z Leaders. I think Pycon's at 4, and that was the highest so far. But Pycon basically comes out at any time after you awaken. The activate main on this, I can place 1 of my Z energy into the drop, look at the bottom card of my deck, and play it if it's a Shroom or Salsa with Servant, which is 3 or less, so either those 2 of those puppies, pun intended. And then if it's not, I have to place it back to the bottom of my deck. Very similar to how the 1-drop works, but the 1-drop can also search for the big boy. Activate battle, so once per turn. If this card's in battle, I use up to 2 Demon Realm Races or Demon God cards, both mono black without super combo my warp in a combo. So, really good thing here. See, these stupid things are so shiny, they're literally completely screwing up what you can see here. But what's really good about that is if it's a kill turn for my opponent and they're swinging on me, I have 2 life left and I have 1 energy open and I haven't used my activate battle yet. The most I can defend for free without using my hand is I have 15k here. I'll use an activate battle. I'll combo one of these for my drop for free, for my warp for free. 25k. I tap 1. I Z Awaken. Play that on top. I still have his activate battle. 2 more of them. So that is, I was at 25. Now I get plus 5k. So because since this is base 20, I go to 30. Now I get the activate battle. I get a combo 2 more of any Demon Realm or Demon God in my warp that doesn't have super combo. 2 more of those. Now what's that number? 20 plus 3 1k plus 10 combos. That's 50k. 50k for free from my warp. So you're stopping a lot of attacks that go in, which you can kind of bait it too, especially if they have a smaller hand. You can just be like, okay, Okay, well, I'm going to tap one here. Then again, if it's a good player and you got one energy up in black, they think you're just going to play Brainwash, which I had originally in this build, but I don't know. It's not bad. I think you should probably throw it in, especially in certain matchups. Since Shenron's got a lot of double strikers and all that fun-loving jet triple strikers. But I don't see a lot of energy being left up in this deck besides when I know I want to Z-Awaken on my opponent's turn. But that is almost 90% of the time how I'm Z-Awakening, unless it's just like, oh, they got an opening, I got one energy, let's double strike them, swing 50k on the offensive. But next card here, we have 4 of the Demon God, Demigra, Begrudging Ally. We got 4 of them because we don't really have any black Z cards. I think I'd throw Boo in here now. Now that we've seen Boo, and I believe Boo is officially out now by the time of this recording. He's the one that came out with the deck. 2-drop, 3Z energy, unique, no protection, because why? Like, why would you give him protection? His permanent is he gets plus 2k power for each card in your Z energy, so I've won games with this guy being at like 31k, because you want to put as much Z energy as possible, because all your cards are just going to be comboed to the drop anyway, and you're going to be using that activate battle on both turns. So, he's pretty okay with being a big beat stick. He just doesn't have protection. His auto is really nice though, so if it's my turn, when I activate Overwhelm or Dark Overwhelm or play a black card for my Warp, which is mainly what you're doing in this deck, I get to choose up to one of my opponent's battle cards that energy cost 6 or less and send it to the owner's Warp, and I get a draw card. I think just for the draw card alone, it's really nice, and then just having a potential beat stick or something they want to get rid of. And then for our final card here, we have the Vegeta surmounting the impossible. If I want to get to the Z leader earlier, he's my option. Basically, you play him for 1 Z energy, 1 energy. He's basically in every single one of my builds. You can take a life and draw a card once you bottom deck a card for your hand. If you're running a Z deck and you're thinking of what you really need, might as well throw Vegeta in. Vegeta's just too good. It's what, the first Z battle card, and that's the one that I feel like I'm sticking in every deck. There's the deck list. You're probably thinking this deck still sucks. You're probably right. But if you ever want to watch any gameplay to this, I have a link in the description below of us doing a tournament run on my stream with it. Tuesdays and Thursdays, Kaioken Kards on Twitch. You know, might as well stop by. But if you have any questions about the deck, leave it in the comments below. And subscribe, or you'll get rabies.